Oh, hi, I didn't see you there. My name is Bliss Foster. It's time to talk about Y Project Spring Summer 2023. I've wanted to do a Y Project video for forever, and this seemed like the right time to do it since I was able to attend this in person during the Paris Men's Fashion Week during June of this year. The show was hosted at a posh high school in Paris. The runway platform was covered completely in gray pebbles that the models crunched under their feet as they walked. The runway was actually a really interesting part of this show because it was a little bit of an optical illusion. They went to great lengths to make sure that the sides and the top of the runway emulated the ground that it was built on. The whole thing just looked like a continuation of a single texture. Which leads us to the theme of this season, where Glenn Martens is furthering the theme of illusion, which seems almost obvious, right? The goal for any designer is always to create shapes that reinvent themselves constantly. They hatch an idea and then continue to build on that idea season over season. But here we see a designer who is creating shapes that almost seem to be in the process of changing as we watch the models walk. Glenn has gotten so deep into his own aesthetic by this show here, Spring 2023, that it almost looks like the aesthetic is eating itself. But I mean, like, look at this stuff. Like, some of the pieces in these outfits look like they are fighting each other for visual dominance. And with that comes all these layers, and the chaos is balanced super, super well, but it has gotten extremely chaotic. Humor is very well executed in this collection. Here is a list of all of the really funny things from this season. There are a few. We have these denim Trompe silk scarves. Like, the scarf is made out of silk, but it looks like it's denim. We got the belt earrings. One that is actually like laugh out loud funny is the middle finger earrings. I f***ing love these. Oh, I can't say this early. Did you know that like YouTube makes it where you can't say certain words just in the first couple of minutes of a video? Like, after you're like 9 minutes in, you're like clear to say whatever you want, but like in the first little bit, you can't say. It's very silly. Trompe cardigan placket next to actual placket. Argyle denim. I don't know. Like, sometimes Trompe stuff is just kind of funny by itself. I can't think of a specific reason, like a way to explain why Argyle denim is funny, but I don't know. I looked at it and laughed. Looks 43, 44, and 45. Dragon. These are kind of funny more in a referential sort of way. These are like the exact types of dragon prints that would be worn on a shirt by the guy that manages a GameStop in 2002. Every day, Chuck was wearing this shirt. And now here it is in Y Project. That makes me happy. Also, AirPod earrings, which is that is also very funny. And an interesting like industry thing about this is that it's pretty clear to everyone by this point that pieces like this are designed to be Instagram bait, right? But the Y Project stuff is actually pretty different. Most of the time, IG bait for runway shows is stuff like Virgil's Chicago cityscape outfit, where it's like, this is kind of funny. It's meant to be reposted a whole bunch to oh man. The light changed, please hold. For anyone who doesn't know, I use a window to light my videos. Very professional. And we're back. Most of the time, these kind of Instagram bait looks for runway shows are more like things like Virgil Abloh's Chicago cityscape piece, outfit thing. I love Virgil a whole lot. I'm not knocking it. It was a really cool piece, but there's no way that this would get manufactured. And if it was manufactured, there's no way that anyone would buy it, really, right? But what's really cool is that a lot of Y Project stuff that does tend to be more like, you know, like people are going to isolate this one thing and post it a bunch on Instagram. They're things that actually are pretty cool. Like, I suspect that this is going to get manufactured and that people are going to buy it. It's probably going to sell out. The boots this season are made in collaboration with a brand called Melissa, which is a luxury Brazilian footwear brand that only makes shoes out of plastic for vegan reasons. Melissa collaborated with Jean-Paul Gaultier in 1983, so we have a little bit of a full circle moment there, but you won't find out what that full circle is unless you watch more of this video. And the brand Melissa is kind of known for their collaborations. They've worked with everyone from Gareth Pugh to Comme des Garçons to Disney and Hello Kitty. This collaboration is inspired by antique mini French Rococo porcelain vases of the 18th century, which themselves were based off of French court shoes. But seeing these shoes made in plastic really makes them feel entirely devoid of their original context. They feel distinctly modern here. Y Project initially debuted the mule shape of this shoe in fall 2021, and they've since expanded the color selection for spring 2022, and now we have them as boots. The saga continues. The saga continues. Why am I saying continues so weird? So Glenn Martens is often referred to as the new Martin Margiela, oftentimes by me. And both designers do have a lot in common. Both men are Belgian, and they kind of have that Belgian surrealist sensibility that a lot of Belgian designers and artists carry with them. And both designers worked for Jean-Paul Gaultier for a number of years. Conveniently enough, this show was done in collaboration with the Jean-Paul Gaultier brand. And we can see in a number of ways that Glenn is very aware of how he fits into that lineage. You see, I'm like dropping little hints as we go that will be addressed later on in the video. And this show's collaboration with the Jean-Paul Gaultier brand seems to be a conversation about skin, skins, and layers. Between 1996 and 1997, Jean-Paul Gaultier experimented with trompe-l'oeil of the human body, but on clothes. He highlighted muscle in particular for the Spring-Summer 1996 show, and he highlighted other garments in Spring 1997. Right? You with me? So we have clothes in Spring-Summer 1996 that appear to be skin, human skin, but they're on clothes. And then in 97, he was doing prints of other clothes onto the collection. So it was a picture of clothes on top of clothes. So we can see that pretty clearly in these looks, but look 41 is kind of this interesting flip on it. It's like when you take like a photocopy machine. Well, 2 seconds, hang on. Okay, hang on. It's like this. Oh, well, I was hoping it would be like those old like Xerox machine things, but that's actually a pretty high fidelity recreation of my hand. Anyway, this is like the old Xerox machines, but it's like if a whole person was laying on a full body Xerox machine wearing an outfit, and that's been trompe-l'oeil onto a, man, that was a lot. I had to find that. I couldn't find that for like 20 minutes. Okay, I am now way too hot wearing this. We're gonna shed a layer here. Y'all know I had to double up on the Y Project for the Y Project video. And we're just keeping that there because I'm not moving stuff anymore. So I always talk about Margiela's Finest Moment show, the Spring-Summer 1996 show. And that was the one with the trompe-l'oeil of clothing onto the linings of other clothes that were being worn as their own dresses. And okay, we're gonna back up here because I really want everybody to understand what we're talking about. Margiela and the team found vintage clothing at a flea market. They then bought it, took it back to the studio, and took individual pictures of all of those garments. So they now had pictures of vintage clothes. Okay, separate from that, they took other vintage clothes, mostly dresses, and pulled the linings out of them. So then they just had silk lining. They then took the photographs and screen printed them onto the linings of those other vintage dresses. So now it's a picture of a vintage garment that has been screen printed onto the lining of a different vintage garment. And then that was the whole collection. I actually have an entire episode about this. I have an entire episode about most Margiela collections. Please check out the Margiela series today. I've worked very hard on it. As we specified earlier, Martin Margiela worked for Jean-Paul Gaultier for a number of years before starting his own brand. And it's really interesting that Martin Margiela did his trompe-l'oeil show at the same time that Jean-Paul Gaultier was also experimenting with trompe-l'oeil. They were doing them at the same time, and now Glenn Martens is kind of following in that same tradition. And a useful strategy for interpretation is you just take different examples of the same technique or the same motif, and you just see if there's any differences in usage between that technique among different people. And you can then see, like, you know, how are they communicating differently? How are they using this technique in different ways? Is it just copying each other, or is there actually something to be gleaned from looking at all three next to each other? Jean-Paul printed jean jackets onto other jean jackets. Martin Margiela printed vintage garments onto the linings of other vintage garments. But Glenn Martens is printing his own designs at Y Project onto his clothes. Like in look 4, you can see previous hit items from Y Project put together into the trompe-l'oeil print, such as the Y belt waist cutout jeans from the previous season, fall 2022, look 8, and the widely loved exposed hip bodysuit that can be scrunched up very tightly. So I have a literature degree, so I have this deep-seated need to start talking about the ancient symbol of the Ouroboros. So, hey y'all, that's kind of like the ancient symbol of the Ouroboros. Look 32 is just further reinforcing that Glenn's use of trompe-l'oeil is so meta and so complex here that you can barely tell what's going on. But this is not a faux complexity or a fake deep kind of situation. Glenn has always been able to back up his ideas with product that reflects the complexity of the inspirational ideas that started the looks in the first place. Other details include this wild necklace piece, which is reflected in the head headpiece on this other look in the same show, look 63. But it's still different and distinct from Martin Margiela and Jean-Paul Gaultier. In look 29, there is a trompe-l'oeil print of the actual physical shoes from look 39 in the same show. You see, this one is the actual shoes, and then this one is not actually the shoes. It looks like it, but it is a trompe-l'oeil. It is a print of the shoes. But my absolute favorite use of trompe-l'oeil in this entire show is this piece here. You would never even see it if you don't zoom in. So if you look at the chest, it's a t-shirt with a trompe-l'oeil of a cable knitted sweater. But incorporated into the mesh of the shirt, there are pieces, those hanging pieces there. That is actual cable knit sweater. Yo dog, I heard you like cable knit sweater. So he mixed it, because the whole thing about trompe-l'oeil is that it's two-dimensional when it appears to be three-dimensional, but here he is doing the trompe-l'oeil and then adding in a three-dimensional component to it. This is brilliant. I love it. But also tattoos. Jean-Paul Gaultier is obviously super famous for the tattoo tops. It's probably the most well-known piece that he's ever put out. Martin Margiela did one tattoo top, and that was in his first show, Spring/Summer 1989. So there is a little bit of a continuation of the theme. Even if he only did one, it's one of the better known Martin Margiela pieces ever. So between Jean-Paul Gaultier and Martin Margiela, we're kind of splitting a person up into layers where we have the clothes, we have skin, we have tattoos, we have their skeleton, we have muscle. So Glenn Martens continues that here with these rude baby silhouettes. That's what the Vogue review called them, was rude baby silhouettes. The Vogue review also said that these were inspired by an actual real-life tattoo on a drunk British man that Glenn Martens met while he was preparing this collection. I've seen a lot of bad tattoos. I don't know if I've seen any that are that caliber of bad. But a great shirt. And another continuation of the legacy thing, we see that the tattoo kind of continues up into the model's neck using paints, which is a pretty huge reference to Martin Margiela painting on model's skin in the Spring/Summer 1992 season that was done down in an abandoned subway station. Y Project's look 40 is a take on Margiela's wet look, which was originally seen in Spring 1990. This is where they took a really oversized men's tank top, put that on first, and then stuffed it into a skin-tight mesh top over top of it so that it kind of so this actually is why I wore this. You can see that the mesh over top the white turtleneck is in such a way so that it can never fully lay flat. There's always going to be these little interesting ways that it's clinging to my skin. And it sort of looks like the way that cotton jersey does when you jump in the pool and then get out and then your t-shirt is clinging to you in all sorts of weird ways. So that's what the Margiela look was based off of, and the wet look in this season is based off of that Margiela look. We're also gonna come back to the boots real quick because this is another Margiela reference. These just gargantuan boots are a throwback, especially in the way that they're being styled over these certain dresses. It's a throwback to Margiela's Fall/Winter 1990 show that took place at a post office, where they took these just massive rain boots and then made it sort of seem like it was almost a cage crinoline under other pieces. Anyway, it was a styling decision when Martin Margiela did it. It's a styling decision in this one, but still pretty cool. And it's so distinct that this has got to be another Margiela reference, especially considering all the other things that we've seen. Extremely good stuff. Okay, let's back up. If I was to give an elevator pitch for Y Project, why this is such a compelling brand, there's two different reasons. The first one is that it completely defies categorization. Glenn has actually pointed this out in interviews before, where he said that he's frustrated some other fashion critics because they're like, oh, well, this is streetwear. And it's it's not really streetwear. You can call it whatever you want, but it's really not streetwear. And then they're like, maybe it's tailoring. And maybe, but this, if you just said they're a tailoring brand and then the person saw this, they would be like, you lied to me. There really isn't another brand that's doing anything as complex and layered, and most importantly, no one is making clothes that are this customizable. The styling choices with these clothes are in some cases just unlimited. Okay, for example, I keep having to run off to get things. This is my Y Project hoodie. It is one of my favorite garments that I own. It's gargantuan. One moment, let me put this bear on. Okay, so the first thing, if it's worn all the way down in the most natural way possible, it looks super cool from the back. Side note, my wingspan is 2 inches longer than my height. I have unusually long arms, and this still, I still get the ooh-woo effect. But then if we take it up and wear it the way that I most commonly wear it when the thing is all the way on, it makes really cool use of the penguin sleeve. And that way it kind of comes forward like a shawl. But whenever I am flying, I always wear this thing because when I am trying to go to sleep, the hood is so incredibly massive that I can literally just tuck it over my entire face and then tuck this over my body, and then comfortably sleep on an airplane. It almost works as a pillow. Very thick boy. But more often than not, if I'm not really sure how to style it, or if like this looks a little too sloppy for what I have on, I will just take her off, wrap it around like that. I don't know if this actually looks super good right now. I do have a couple examples of outfits in which I feel like I pulled it off pretty well. But yeah, the point is that these items really compel you to customize them. They encourage you to wear them in a lot of different ways. And there's some looks in this runway show where it's very clear that, yeah, this is meant to be customized. These pieces right here, you can clearly clip those in however you want, and so you get this zigzag pattern to be in whatever shape, crazy configuration you want it to be. But it really is true that almost every product I've found by Y Project either has a highly customizable element to it, even less obvious pieces like the hoodie that I have, or pieces that have something just very, very, very unusual about them, like this turtleneck. They're called turtlenecks. Right now, it looks like Glenn is seeing how far he can push his own aesthetic. He's moving into a place where the garment is, I mean, I'll say it again, it's almost like it's eating itself. This is the most Glenn Martens collection that I have seen yet, and I really like it when artists do that because it kind of confronts the artist with the question of what you will do next. When he was talking to Essence, Glenn said, quote, "I don't always know who I am. You need to reflect a lot to be able to know who you are," end quote. And in this show, there was a lot of reflection, and there seemed to be a lot of self-discovery with it as well. By reflecting Jean-Paul Gaultier and Martin Margiela, he was able to find his own path in the traditions that those two men were able to popularize. Also, here is something that definitely needs to be addressed. A lot of people have been complaining about my outros.